Radical transparency is just really important. Over communicating. My wife probably hates me for that at times, right? But for me, it's just being very transparent with people, being very direct. And so one of the things, Hal Runkle, one of my executive coaches, big shout out to him. When I remember he was going through some of the lessons that we would learn, and he would always ask this question to me. And every time I would, maybe complain about something or complain about a department or a person. And everybody does this at a company, right? And the one question he always told me to ask that person is when they're going down this path of complaining about somebody or complaining about what they did or they didn't do. Always ask this question: What did they say when you told them? And I'm telling you right now, Jim, every single time I'm undefeated on this. The person always looks back at me and says, "Well, I wouldn't tell them that. I didn't tell them that." And he would always say, "Well, that's your problem. Go talk to them."
Welcome to Real Leadership, the podcast that spotlights leaders who make, move, and process things in the real economy. Together we go to the heart of leadership to discover the strategies and hard-earned lessons from pragmatic, gutsy leaders who operate in a world that is more steak than it is sizzle. I'm your host, Jim Weaver, Chief Executive Officer of the Owner Group, where we believe that real leadership matters. Let's go. Welcome back to Real Leadership. Today, my guest is Drew Herpich. Drew is Chief Commercial Officer with one of the top freight brokerages in the U.S., Nolan Transportation Group, where he oversees strategic vision for the organization. Drew's journey with Nolan began in 2020 as EVP of Enterprise Strategy, where he quickly made his mark by transforming carrier operations and creating a flywheel effect that benefits both customers and carriers. His focus on improving drayage, LTL, final mile, and warehousing opportunities has reshaped NTG's value proposition. Before NTG, Drew cut his teeth spending over 14 years at Coyote Logistics, where he took part in that company's extraordinary growth. He started as a freight broker and ultimately managed a team of more than 600 reps. That contributed to Coyote's acquisition by one of the largest companies in the world. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Appreciate you having me on today, Jim. So
start us off, big picture. Explain the landscape of your industry and what does ATG do? Where do you fit in?
Yeah, so NTG is a company. We're one company with two brands. Nolan Transportation Group is one of the largest brokerage companies in the U.S. We connect shippers with carriers, and we move over 1 million loads in last year. Transportation Insight it provides our managed services across truckload, LTL, parcel, and drayage to optimize supply chains with the tech experience that they have. Both of these brands are under one umbrella, the Beyond company, and combined, we're the fourth largest domestic transportation management company in the U.S. today.
What does that mean, managed services in? Double click on that for me, just for my education.
Yeah, so what it means is when you look at Transportation Insight, what they're doing for a lot of it is outsourcing the transportation needs, right? So you look at some companies that their core competency is making a soft drink or making computers. The last thing that they need to worry about is the transportation, and so what that side of our company does is really look to outsource, really look to be able to help them from a transportation needs and be doing all the things that they need from a transportation, whether that be the business analytics, actually shipping the freight, using the TMS. They're there to provide that outsource execution for them.
Are you doing 3PL work as well, or is that not?
Yeah. So absolutely. So when they're looking at the companies and the shipping needs that they have, whether it be from that parcel or the LTL or truckload, they're working with obviously the big assets that you see on the road, but also working with other brokerages and 3PLs, just like NTG.
So what are some of the big issues or opportunities that you're facing right now that you're helping your customers through?
Yeah, I mean, right now today, when we say here right now today, you look at this big ILA strike that might happen on the East Coast, and so that would affect every port from Maine all the way down to Houston in the Gulf. And what they're really looking at right now is a strike that would possibly happen here at the end of the month. And so you think about that, anybody shipping from anywhere across the world coming into our East Coast ports, they're going to have to revert to our West Coast ports or look for different solutions. And so right now in real time, we're helping a lot of our customers see through that a little bit right now with the unknown of this strike possibly happening.
How do you navigate something like that?
That's a tricky part, right? And so obviously, in our space, there's over 20,000 brokers. And I think the reason why, NTG is, got to the position where it is today is we really help build solutions for our customers. And so for us, we're not going to wait until this decision happens. We're looking out for our customers right now, whether it be, providing warehouse solutions, helping them to avoid some demurrage that might possibly happen if this comes up, or really at the end of the day, how do I get my product to my end users, right? And so for them, they don't need to understand the intricacies of, the ports and what's going on over there or how this is going to be affected. What they really want to know is, hey, Drew, hey, NTG, how are you going to get my product to my end users? And those are some of the solutions we're helping them build.
Yeah. How do you see things evolving in your industry over the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, so right now, like I just said, 20,000 plus brokers in the industry. I think what you're going to see is a lot of consolidation over the next few years, and I don't mean to compare it to the stock market or the trading platforms that happen on that, but I think you'll see something very, very similar, right? And so for us, you're seeing a lot of big tech changes, automation, and really how AI comes into this space in a different way. And so I think you'll see a lot of consolidation over the years. Now what that gets down to, that's more of a guess. But instead of seeing 20,000 plus brokers out there, you might see maybe a few thousand only.
So you sit in a spot where you are leveraging relationships with those 20,000 brokers right now.
So we actually we're competing with those 20,000.
You are okay.
Yeah. So we are one of the brokers, the 3PLs out there. And what we really do on a day-to-day basis is help our shippers, connect to the 80,000 carriers that we have in our network to ensure that they're getting their shipments from point A to point B. Okay,
lots of small players. I got it. COVID exposed some real supply chain vulnerability globally. So what has changed in logistics since COVID, and what has gone back to status quo that you're thinking, man, we really need to address this?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and right. And so over the last, it's almost been now 4 years. Crazy saying that, or a little bit over 4 years now. I think the issues of pre-planning, understanding supply chain snags, understanding the partners that you're working with. Those are things that I think were kind of table stakes before, and now where you fast forward today, after obviously the COVID and the era that we went through, really in 21 and 22, of seeing one of the biggest freight market booms that we've seen in the history. Now I think people are more prepared, for it going forward, right? You saw, to give you an idea, Jim, you saw, the container going from, China to California go from $3,000 to almost $20,000, right? Yeah. And so, that was eating into companies' profits. That was eating into their overall, when you look at like how they were able to get those, product to them at the end of the day. They were stuck in warehouses. They were getting, charged to merge. And so I think a lot of what you saw now happen is people understanding that full supply chain solution. For me during those times, I remember, friends and family being like, hey, have you heard about the issues at the ports, right? And there was a period there where supply chain became kind of sexy a little bit. And I think for the most part, companies looked at it for a period of time of, hey, this is just 5-10%. We're going to have this cost no matter what. I think after COVID now, with exactly, what happened with the costs and things like that, now, everybody in the company, all the way up to the CEO, is very interested in what is going on in their supply chain and their networks and what partners they're working with.
You talked about consolidation in your industry and how much of that is sort of tech enabled, right? Tell us about Beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. So we created a system, our platform Beyond, where our carriers and customers can go into, be able to understand all of their shipping needs, from being able to book a load, as a carrier, and being able to get freight revenue for your company. From the shipper standpoint, understanding where that product is, how they're looking at their tracking, understanding what invoices and things like that are coming through. And what Beyond does is able to connect our carriers and our customers together to be able to have a seamless platform that they work on.
What's the value proposition for someone working with a large partner like you guys, as opposed to one of those smaller players that you were in the 20,000? I mean, I think I know what it is, but I'd love to hear you articulate that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it at the end of the day, some of it is obviously economies of scale. When you think about from a carrier position, right, our truck drivers on the road, and I think the one thing that people don't talk about enough is the number one job in America is driving a truck. Over 3 million drivers out there, and so the biggest thing for them is working with a partner, 3PL, or even a customer to be able to make sure that they get revenue. And so at the end of the day, for us, having that large carrier network, the carriers and trusted partners that we vetted and go through our compliance department to be trusted to be able to move the freight, that's where on the customer side of things that they're able to get obviously cheaper rates to them, but better partnership through it, and then more options at the end of the day. And so for us, everybody's got a little bit of a differentiator how they look at it. But really for us, it's our network and what we're able to offer our customers at the end of the day.
I would think that embracing technology, to really, especially for a large customer, it's just a must-have to be able to have the insight into where everything is, all the truck space available, the warehousing available, to be able to pull that together and leverage technology to really get insight. I would think the opportunity for efficiency would be massive, right?
Absolutely. And I think, the industry's got a bad rap over the years, Jim, right? I think a lot of people said, they don't use technology. Everything they have is antiquated. And there is some truth to that. On the opposite side of this, in the last 5 years, I've really seen the technology in our space really take off. And what I mean by that is that technology's always been there, but how do you use it? How do you get more people on it? How do you get some of the buy-in? For the longest period of time, even getting carriers onto your portal or your apps,
right?
Was very tough. And now where we are in 2024, technology isn't a nice to have, it is a must, right? Mm-hmm. And so how you move forward, how you're able to do things more efficiently, you look at things from a cost per load perspective and things like that. That's really where technology is taking off in our space.
Understanding your labor market is crucial for successful recruitment. Onin Staffing's Recruitment Strategy Guide provides insights specific to your geographic location and the positions you're hiring for. Our Recruitment Strategy Guide delivers a clear snapshot of your labor market and actionable intel to tackle market-specific challenges. With Onin's expertise, we help you navigate and win in your competitive landscape. Empower your recruiting process with the insights you need. Learn more about Onin's Recruitment Strategy Guide at oninstaffing.com/strategy. Early in your career, it looks like you had a really exciting run, a 13-year run with Coyote Logistics. You came in, there's about 15 people on the team. At the end of your run, 3,300, you're over a group of 600 folks. That's exciting. I'm sure it was frantic at times, but what did Coyote do right to have that kind of run? Yeah, no, it's a great question, and kind of a little bittersweet day actually. Just yesterday, you saw probably a lot of the news of our RXO closing on that deal with Coyote, and congratulations to them on that deal and that process. For me, it was really what was built by Jeff Silver and Mary Ann Silver. Jeff, obviously, one of the godfathers in the industry, knew that there was still, an ability back when we started Coyote to really differentiate themselves from other brokers, right? And one of the things that we always said was no excuses, because we really lived by that on a day-to-day basis. We really made no excuses for our customers and make sure that we provided solutions. But on the other side of that, was Mary Ann and what she really built from a people and culture perspective. And that was something over the last, week or two with obviously the change in RXO buying that culture, and so many Coyotes have, moved on in their careers or done something different. I think a lot of them still crave those early days of that culture that was created there.
because that was something that most of the people in the industry tried to replicate and found out how hard it really was. And so it was really just kudos to Jeff and Marianne and the vision that they brought, and then allowing a lot of us that were younger really develop into our careers and build that company with them.
What was it about the culture? What were the attributes?
It's cheesy a little bit, but really work hard, play hard, right? I mean, early in my 20s, there was days you were working 11, 12, 13 hours. Saturdays and Sundays weren't really a option. It was more of a must have. And we all bought in to really helping the company, right? I see so many people today, young, coming out of college or getting their first jobs or whatever it might be, and they feel like they just work, for the company. It was a different culture where everybody wanted to do what was best. Everybody wanted to help each other out. There was a real commodity type feeling. We're talking about sports events. We're talking about parties. We really had a really good time. And, again, a little bit cheesy, but you really felt like family at the end of the day. I mean, some of those people, that I first started off with those first, second years are some of my really good friends today. And that hasn't changed with people leaving the company or things like that, which was just much different than when you look at a lot of other companies out there. Yeah,
yeah. So you rose up in the ranks pretty quickly. I mean, that was an early job, looks like out of school for you, right? When you started.
I mean, probably like most people in this industry, I didn't grow up dreaming about to be a freight broker, right? But for me, I was able to get lucky and benefit from the company's growth. And as the company grew, I grew myself individually as well too. And for me, early in my career, I was just a sponge, right? And I sat next to guys like Jeff Silver, Mark Ford, who overruns Blue Grace, Tim King, who's been a legend in this industry, guys like Dave Herbert and Tim Fitzgibbons, and I'm a 22-year-old kid not knowing anything about freight brokerage, how this really works. I've got 3 computer screens in front of me. Yeah. It was kind of a video game at times for me. And just soaking up that knowledge, being able to learn from all of them, that is something that I never really forget.
Yeah, yeah. So what were a couple of early tough lessons learned for you as a young leader?
Yeah, I mean, as a young leader, I'll never forget this. So this is I'm probably about 24, 25, about 3 years in. And, the first couple of years, right, we were doing everything. Everybody was doing every job. You're doing sales, you're doing operations, you're helping out with, back office stuff, and you're kind of getting there. And then, we kind of got our footing going and really established ourselves as a company. And I remember I got into my first leadership position, and I had this terrible idea of putting all of our great sales reps into leadership positions, right? Yeah. And I'm sure everybody, looking at this in hindsight, is like, what were you thinking, Drew? But, one of the things that you find out real quickly is your best sales reps are definitely not your best leaders, right? Yeah, yeah. And just being able to separate functions for people, what people should be good at, understanding the lay of the landscape. But for me, I didn't have that business acumen yet. I didn't have that maturity to just not know what I didn't know. And learning from some of those early examples in leadership early on really helped me out later in my career.
What's a favorite failure that you had? Maybe that opened up a door to something else, or do you have something that stands out besides that one? Yeah,
I mean, you think about a failure. It's probably my transition, from Coyote to NTG, and so obviously, after UPS came in and bought the company, for me, there was about 4 or 5 other guys. We were competing for the COO job, and for me, I wasn't selected for the position, and so I obviously took that personal, but I also was able to understand what I needed to do, right? I needed to bet on myself. I needed to have that confidence that I was able to do that position still. And so that failure helped me realize what was still ahead of me that I haven't realized quite yet.
You were competing for the COO role with whom?
With ironically enough, 4 guys that I came up with at the company.
At Coyote?
Yeah, absolutely, right. Okay. And so it was an internal position. All of us guys, we were with the company now at this point probably 11, 12 years. The guy that got selected, and me and him are still great friends here today. Yeah. We used to live together, right? In our 20s, right? And so we came up together. It was a very competitive culture.
Sure.
And so that was what made Coyote so special. When you look at today, out there in the landscape in this brokerage. Some of those guys and girls that were at that company, they're leading other top 10, top 20 logistics companies, whether it be at Uber or Rive or Armstrong or some of these other companies that are out there today. Those people that we worked with back in the day, they're now leading other companies today. And so, again, paying a kudos to Marianne here, her eye for talent was incredible, when we look back at that team. And it's just like, when you look at, sports teams in general, you see some of these teams that just have all these all-stars on one team, and you're like, why can't you keep it, them all together? And eventually, some of these people have to go be the QB1 instead of QB2 or whatever it might be. And I think that's what you've seen over the last, few years in general.
Yeah, we've had two Coyote alumni on that have gone on to great things. No doubt there was something special happening there for sure. So you had a lot of great leadership early on, great examples. What's some terrible leadership advice you got early on? Anything stand out in that category?
Yeah, one thing I always think about is, obviously, when we were bought, you go through that transition, and one of the things I saw from leadership sometimes in general was, we always do it that way, those are the things that I think at the end of the day, when somebody hears that, the psychology behind that is so many different things. You take away the creativity from that person. You take away the problem solving from that person. You take away the ability for them to want to bring solutions, going forward to you. And so, one of the worst, things I always saw was when people just say, "Hey, this is the way we always did it," or "Hey, that's the way that my boss did it before," or "This is what's always worked for us to be successful." Because I'm sure, there was a lot of things that probably worked at Blockbuster, for years, right? Yeah. And then, you think about a company like Netflix that comes along, and so, for me, I live by that statement a little bit with, our current company today at NTG, right? You never want to become Blockbuster, right? And I'm sure Blockbuster didn't either. But there's certain ways from a management style or the way that you always look at things that sometimes you can get in your own way. Yeah,
absolutely. I had another guest say, he was talking about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there was nothing wrong with the horse, but somebody still invented the automobile, So yeah, it's somebody's got to question the status quo. Those are the folks that move us forward. So I'm with you.
Recruiting top talent is tough. Onan Staffing focuses on people, offering exceptional benefits to attract and retain dedicated workers. Partner with us for flexible, data-driven solutions. Visit onanstaffing.com to learn more.
I know you're big at just doing my research on radical transparency. I've seen you. That's a theme for you. So what does that mean to you? Why is it so important? And how do you go about instilling that into your team, into your organization?
Yeah, and so for me, radical transparency is just really important. Over communicating. My wife probably hates me for that at times, right? But for me, it's just being very transparent with people, being very direct. And so one of the things, Hal Runkle, one of my executive coaches, big shout out to him. When I remember he was going through some of the lessons that we would learn. And he would always ask this question to me, and every time I would, maybe complain about something or complain about a department or a person, and everybody does this at a company, right? And the one question he always told me to ask that person is when they're going down this path of complaining about somebody or complaining about what they did or they didn't do. Always ask this question: What did they say when you told them? And I'm telling you right now, Jim, every single time I'm undefeated on this, the person always looks back at me and says, well, I wouldn't tell them that. I didn't tell them that. And he would always say, well, that's your problem. Go talk to them. And for me, those are when you get, some really good things out, right? I challenged one of my leaders the other day to go sit with, one of his guys. And I go, hey, don't go into a room with him. Go out, go to the bar, go to the restaurant, just go for a walk outside of this and really try to get to know them. Because I think at the end of the day, a lot of the issues that people don't realize is just being very direct in your communication. And I think a lot more will come out once you have that open involvement and communication with them.
Yeah, that difficult follow-up conversation is where that's how you build influence within an organization. Like being willing to do that, because most people are not. That's when the magic happens. It's tough, but that's when the magic happens.
Well, and for me, I joke around with my friends and again with my wife a lot about this. I don't want to say I love conflict, but sometimes it gets me excited, Jim. Right? It's amazing to me, especially in 2024 today, how opinions can be looked at negatively, right? And for that, right, having conflict, having those discussions, working through solutions at the end, and you might find out real quickly you see it the same way. You just saw it, you said it differently, and so for me, getting into those discussions that can sometimes get heated or press people. Those are some of the things I love. They get me excited. They change the status quo. They change the way that you're going to go do things. And sometimes those are really, really good conversations to have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think freedom of speech is something really special and really powerful. And a bad idea left with a lid on it, it becomes explosive. Even bad, but putting bad ideas, people will correct each other on that stuff, So yeah, I'm 100% with you. I've been there mentally a lot recently, just thinking about that. Okay. What's your process for setting personal and organizational goals? What does that look like?
Yeah. So everybody's got a different way to do that. For me, I write them down. Right. And so the first thing for me is step one is just, write this down, see how it looks. Right. From there, and when I say write it down, everybody's got a different method of doing this. Some people write them emails. Some people, do a notebook. I used to be a very, very big Post-it guy note person. My old colleague who's done phenomenal in her own career, Jan Tio, has always made fun of me because I used to have Post-it notes all over my desk and I used to cross them off. Right, I was a big cross-off person. Right, but from there it was really then setting dates. Right, setting timelines, holding yourself accountable. Right, What I notice with a lot of people in general is the procrastination or, hey, I'll get to that when I need to. But I heard a great thing the other day. To make yourself successful, it's doing the things that other people don't want to do. Right? For example, if you want to get in shape and you want to go jogging, it's the easiest thing in the world when it's raining outside to say, hey, I don't want to go for a jog today. But to be successful, you need to go for that jog when it's raining out. Right? And so those are the type of things for me of just kind of setting the expectations, setting the dates. And then, be very transparent with yourself. Don't lie to yourself on what it is and what you want to accomplish. And then the last thing, this has been something for me that, when I lay down at night or when I close my eyes or when I'm thinking to myself for a second, I can't tell you how powerful, Jim, the word manifest is to me. Believing in something, believing it's going to happen, seeing how it's going to happen, the things that will be the steps that will, come into making that happen. I just believe that is so important. And so if you tell yourself you can do something, you'd be very surprised how strong your mind can be at the end of the day. And so for me, really manifesting what those goals need to be at the end are very important.
How do you guys do that for the organization? You're a big company. You have an executive team. Do you have a formal process around target setting for the organization?
Absolutely. Right. And so, when we look at our day to day, right, whether it be the day to day, the week to week, the month to month, everybody should understand what their metrics are, what their goals should be, what they need to hit, whether that be from the salesperson to the team leader, to the manager, all the way up to the VPs and SVPs. Everybody has got numbers and goals that they need to be able to hit, right? Those being communicated, those being in front of you, those being accessible to you and understanding where you stand in those. Those can be so important. But just looking at numbers won't get you the numbers you need, right? And that's where I think the other aspect of it, Jim, is so important, right? Numbers is one thing. Having the reports and having everything you need is so crucial. But then everything that you do besides this will start to produce those numbers. The numbers in the Excel sheet don't get better unless you're doing the things over here on the right.
Looking at them doesn't accomplish anything.
Trust me. And I think sometimes too many people do that, right? Yeah. Hey, did you know? Yeah, I've noticed that number, right? The only way it's going to get better, though, if we get to work on it. And those are putting in the processes, putting the SOPs, putting the expectations in. That's a huge word for me on my day-to-day basis. It is really setting that expectation so everybody from the top down understands what they're responsible for at the end of the day.
What do you do to show up the way you need to show up? Stay inspired, stay energetic. Do you have any practices that tee you up for each day?
Yeah, I mean, for me, people might not like this answer, Jim. Like I do nothing to a certain degree, right? And a reason I say it that way is I wake up like this every single day. I've just got a competitive, fire drive in me. Everybody always thinks I'm crazy when I say this to them, but I've never had a cup of coffee in my life. I would do terrible off of caffeine or anything that I would put in my body. And so for me, it's just water in the morning. I wake up this way. I wake up ready to go. My wife really hates this because we talk about it all the time. And I've got a 3-year-old son and a 5-month-old daughter. But, for my 3-year-old son, and I can see where he gets his competitive nature from, but we really live by the line of getting a little bit better every single day. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that can be something as big as your job. It could be me being a better father or husband, or just the way we clean up his room, right? Every single day we should think about getting better, how we do that process a little bit better. And I think, so many people, I hear all the time, you have to keep working or you're going to die eventually. Or, if I ever left my job, for me, work doesn't define me. It's the processes in life of getting better all the time. And so if you're doing that, whether that be at work or your personal life or whatever it might be, those are the things that really keep me motivated, to get better. And finding those jobs, finding that passion, being able to critique yourself on how you get better. Those are the things that really drive me on a day-to-day basis.
Have you changed your mind on anything in recent years? You got a little road behind you now? Not a lot, but a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer to you is no, right? Can you always look back? Absolutely. For me, I'm not a very big past person. I'm not one of those people that would ever want to talk, about high school or college or the days like that. That's just not me. I'm very, forward thinking, how we're going to be able to go do this next, or what's the next trip, or whatever that might be. But no, because this is how I look at it, Jim, right? Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a little bit different story. Everybody has had experiences. Those experiences that I've endured over the last, I just turned 40 this year, have made me for who I am, whether that be from my family, from my friends, the things that I've done in my life, the travel that I've gone on, the travel that I didn't go on, right? And so, I always, use a couple lines with my training class, and one of them is, one thing I used to do. So when I was 24, Jim, I moved down to Atlanta. Didn't know anybody, and as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm a Midwest guy. I'm from Detroit originally. The Southern folk didn't take too kind to Drew when he moved down to Atlanta, right? And didn't have any friends, didn't have any family down here, and so I remember challenging myself to get out there a little bit more, or go to try to do different things. And I remember, I set this to myself to go to a bar, and what I used to do was go to the bar and put my cell phone in my pocket. And I encourage everybody to try this sometime, especially now where we are today. This is almost 15 years ago now. Go to the bar and put your cell phone in your pocket. Don't resist that urge to look at Instagram, to look at Facebook, to look at LinkedIn, or whatever it might be, the text messages. Don't go into that pocket. Keep that phone in the pocket for 2 hours and just see what happens, right? And again, if you don't drink, that's fine. Just sit at the bar. But what you'll see real quickly is you're going to talk to different people. You're going to go through different experiences. You're going to get to maybe know that bartender. You might get to know that person on your left and right. Those are some of the experiences that I think will shape and mold you as you go forward. And it was kind of ironic when I got back down to Atlanta a few years back. I was traveling and back to here, and I was by myself, obviously, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go to that bar again. And I ended up going to the Taco Mac in Midtown. Sat down at the bar. Started talking to the bartender a little bit, right? And to my left was this 27-year-old, kind of a guy that looked a little bit, like, hey, what have you been doing? And he was actually on the show Deadliest Catch. He was crab catching up in Alaska and had all these crazy stories. Then to my right, the guy kind of is over listening. He chimes in, and his dad was, a Navy officer. He lived in 45 different countries. The experiences he went through, right? And then all of a sudden, a half hour later, I learned a lot about them, their experiences, what they went through, taught me different lessons than what I'm usually doing, right? You think about my friends and family. Nobody's going out crab catching, Jim, right? And so, just listening to those different things. And because I think experiences are so important, right? I always give this kind of corny line to the training classes. Mark Zuckerberg, when he was in college, invited a few people over to his dorm room, right? And only a couple people showed up. And those other people that didn't show up, well, guess what? They're probably kicking their own ass every day because they're not a billionaire, because guess what was created that night? This thing called Facebook, right? And so, saying yes to things that you wouldn't do, trying things that you normally wouldn't do, those are the things that will make you a more well-rounded person. And then when you look at yourself in your 40s or 50s or 60s, you don't go look back and go, wow, I wish I would have done that, or I wish I would have tried that. That's the beauty of life.
Yeah, that's good advice. So you are a growing, dynamic organization. Why would someone want to come work with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, just the two words you just right there said, right? Growing, dynamic, company. I look at this at the end of the day, and it's a very true thing. People don't work for companies; people work for people. And the one thing that I think that we have special here at NTG is the leadership team that we're building. We've got a lot of people that have been here from the beginning days. We've got people that have come in from other organizations, but overall, we've got a really solid leadership team with a lot of experience, a lot of different knowledge. Has seen different aspects of the transportation game, whether it be from the LTL side or truckload side or drayage. And would get me excited, if I was coming into this landscape and saying, hey, I want to go work for NTG tomorrow, is just the people that are really, helping you, get to what you need to on a day-to-day basis. And so for me, having somebody come into the organization and say, hey, I fully understand what is expected of me. I fully understand what goes into this job. Those are some of the things that I really think about at the end of the day, that's going to get somebody excited to come into this organization. But really, where do I fit in? Because at the end of the day, Jim, this is the one thing. Everybody's very selfish. How does this work for me? How does this work for me? Yeah. And what I need to be able to provide as a leader of this organization is this is exactly how it can work for you. This is how your career path can look. This is how you're able to make money. This is how you're able to better your family. Those are the real things that are really important. I think as well, too, I use the word candid a lot. I'm very open with people in my organization about who I am as a person, what I do in my family life, what I do with my friends. Most people probably think I'm very boring. But I think really understanding the people you work with at the end of the day and what really drives them, that's what's going to get them excited to come work for you as well, too.
All right, let's land it there. I'm going to put it in the show notes, but how can folks find out about opportunity with NTG? Maybe folks in our network, businesses find out how to work with you guys. What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, and so for us, if you go to ntgfreight.com, we've obviously got our careers and opportunities page. From there, our HR team we would reach out to you, and we look forward to meeting you and hopefully bringing you on the team one day.
We've got, I assume, potential business partners could check you out in the same spot. We've got a pretty good network of folks that make and process things that dial in. So great. Well, thank you so much. It's been great. Folks, until next time, keep it real. Thank you for listening. This podcast was powered by Onin, a family of staffing companies providing real staffing solutions to manufacturing, logistics, and food processing companies across the United States of America. To get in touch or learn more about partnering with an Onin Group company, visit us at www.oningroup.com. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.